Welcome, guys, to another episode of the Alt Sport. We know you're usually accustomed to seeing Dre and Matt, but you've got Dan and Chris usually from Sportsheads moved over now to Alt Sport. Chris, how are you doing?
Hey, man, I'm feeling good today, man. Down here in Miami, beautiful weather. We're still on quarantine. I know wherever Bill is in the country, I know he's on quarantine, locked down, must suck. But we're going to get back outside, right? But it's good to be back over on Alt Sport, speaking to the four-time champion himself.
Yeah, so you kind of alluded to it. Today we've got a special guest. We're quite honored to have in the house four-time Super Bowl linebacker playing for 49ers and playing for Denver Broncos, Bill Romanowski. Bill, welcome. Thanks very much for coming on.
Talk to you.
Yeah, we appreciate that. You've had a career across not just in NFL, but also post. I guess going forward, first we'll start with the sort of Hall of Fame teams, great teams. But I guess I want to ask you firstly, what got you into your love for football, really?
I think it started when I was, kind of a young kid watching my older brothers play football. And, my parents would drag me to the games and, before you know it, I'm playing flag football on the side while they're doing tackle. And I remember that like it was yesterday. And I always said, God, I want to do that. And I would always hear my brothers' names being called on the loudspeaker. And that just one thing after another, it was like, I want to do this.
I got a question, Bill. So when you're playing flag football and your brothers are playing tackle, were you actually playing flag football? Because we know the Bill, did it start there?
Well, it would get a little aggressive, with my buddies. But for the most part, hey, we did a lot of tackle football, in the neighborhood. But a lot of times when you're, back then, when I started going to football games, I was 6, 7, 8 years old. So I was a little guy.
Oh, man. Amazing. So you get drafted in 88, right?
Yes.
For me, I'm 37, so I don't know how many people listen. I think those were some of the glory years of the game, and I'll ask your opinion on that. But obviously you step in and as a rookie, you're surrounded with Coach Walsh, Ronnie Lott, Joe Montana, Jerry Rice. Can you give us one story that sits out from like your rookie couple years with those Hall of Famers and the things you soaked up from them?
Yeah. Here's really my introduction to the NFL. And like you said, I got drafted in 1988, San Francisco 49ers. And I remember the first meeting that Bill Walsh had with us. He said, man, our goal is to win a Super Bowl and nothing less is acceptable to this organization. Mm. I was like, God, I love that. And, I look down on my right, there's Joe Montana. I see Ronnie Lott to my left. I see Roger Craig. All these phenomenal players. And so 2 weeks after that, because that was the beginning of training camp, 2 weeks after that, I went into my first preseason game. And we're playing the LA Raiders down in the Coliseum in preseason. Mm. And I'm playing the whole second half of the game. And there's this one play, where Ethan Horton, the tight end, pushes me in the back. And I went down, I got up real quick. Things are happening really fast. And so I get up, go back to the huddle. So fast forward to the next day in the film room. And you could see that play happen where he pushes me in the back. Mm. And Ronnie Lott turned on the lights in the film room. And he told George Seifert, our defensive coordinator, he said, George, turn off the lights. Turn off the projector. And he came over to me and he's right over me like this. And he says, Romo, if I ever see anybody push you in the back and you don't do something about it, I will personally kick your ass. You hear me?
Ronnie Lott.
And Ronnie Lott. And he went on to say, this is a game of respect. And if you're going to let somebody punk you, they will punk you right out of this league. So he made that that one moment that happened to me, he made it a teaching moment for everybody in the room. And he basically said, we don't play defense like that. We never let anybody punk us. We dominate from beginning to end. And that's the way you play in the NFL. And so after that, I never let anybody ever punk me again.
Yeah, I know 16 years later, Marcus figured that out too. Right?
So Phil, I mean, you talk about sort of Ronnie Lott. Obviously, you're in an era of sort of hard-hitting defenses, the 80s, the 90s. Everyone knows the sort of hard-hitting. You know, you don't really throw down the middle unless you want to get your head chopped off. So obviously, you've been a hard hitter. You've been a great linebacker for your career. Can you give us sort of your top 5 personal plays or top 5 personal hits throughout your career?
Well, let's just say that plays.
Yeah.
Top 5 plays. First one happened my rookie year in the Super Bowl. I get an interception. Wow. Against the Cincinnati Bengals. Boomer Esiason in the third quarter of the game, which really helped us win that football game. Next one would be one of my best hits was when I hit Kerry Collins in preseason, and I sacked him and shattered his jaw in about, 10 places. So when I got back to the sideline, you would have thought we won the Super Bowl. And that was a preseason game. But guys were so fired up. Another one was in the Super Bowl, my 4th Super Bowl that I won with the Broncos when I hit Chris Chandler on a sack in that game early in the first quarter. Kind of set the tempo for the game. Another one would be when I hit Clinton Portis on Monday Night Football. This is when I played for the Raiders, and I hit Clinton Portis. I forget what quarter of the game, and broke his ribs, knocked him out. And then my last is I knocked Brian Greasy out of a Bronco uniform. Ooh. And I sacked him. He went down and he was hurt, and he never played for the Broncos again.
Man,
so
you know what? Big shout out to those moments, man. Those are big moments, I think, because they change the momentum of a team, especially with guys like yourself that play with reckless abandonment. Obviously, I don't think you guys play the game to hurt somebody, but you do play a hurtful game, and
it's a violent game.
But the thing I was saying in the 90s, obviously, then today, when you were playing the 80s and 90s, that was celebrated. A dude would hit somebody hard, and the whole team would kind of high five, not to clown the guy that got hit, but kind of like boost up their own selves because it was a big play. Do you see a difference between what's going on today? Actually, is it better?
Absolutely. And the NFL is safety first, their reputation, and I get it. It's hard what these players have to do now, where they have to turn their head when they hit somebody and hit them with a shoulder. It's pretty, it's not easy to do. Now, these running backs, these receivers are really damn fast, and they're hard to hit. And so, but hats off, the NFL, they're doing it. And it was a different game. I was being fined back in the late 90s, early 2000 for hits that I was having. And if I was playing now, I probably would be kicked out of every game with the way I used to hit, because I used to hit with my head. I was a head hitter. My head was a weapon, period.
So, I mean, I do want to throw this out because, see, I'm under 30. So for us millennials, as you would say. I grew up watching not so much the Ravens defense, but definitely Seattle's Legion of Boom. Obviously, I'm a Seattle fan as well, so big up the Seattle Seahawks. So, Bill, obviously you've been through great defenses, you've seen great defenses, you probably watched the Iron Curtain of the Steelers Iron Curtain in the 70s. Where would you rank sort of like the Legion of Boom? Because for me, I feel like they were the best defense I saw play NFL football. Would you rank them in your top 5, and if not, who would you be sort of your top 5 defenses?
They would definitely be in my top 5.
Woo-hoo!
I would say, I would probably put when the Ravens won the Super Bowl with Ray Lewis, the first time.
Yeah.
I would probably put that team, their defense probably number 1. Who else would I throw in there? I would put in some of our 49er defenses when I got there, when I first got there, because we were always in the top 5 every year. But hey, when Joe Montana's throwing touchdowns to Jerry Rice and John Taylor, they were getting all the highlights, and us being one of the top defenses in the league, we really didn't get a lot of accolades, but we knew and they knew that it was really about defense, and that's what helped us win all those Super Bowls back then.
Dope, man. Dope. Man, Bill used to be on he was so feared, man. I remember I was actually a Broncos fan when you guys were winning the Super Bowl, and man, the fear that you used to put in. I remember this commercial between you versus who's the running back from Eddie George, and just the tension between you guys and the anticipation of you guys meeting in the hole. I just thought that you brought that to the game, and obviously as a fan, I just want to say I appreciate that. But here on All Sports, man, and we want you to write it down. So I'm gonna ask you a tough question, and I just need you to give me you played with these 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks, man. Who you taking, John Elway or Joe Montana, man? Like, you got 2 rings with both of these guys. Who you taking, man? Who you taking?
You know what? I think at the end of the day, I would probably have to go with Joe, because he won 4 Super Bowls. But I believe if John Elway was coached by Bill Walsh all those years, I think John Elway would have had 4 or more Super Bowls. So it's a toss up, because they were both awesome. I mean, one was maybe a little more accurate in Montana, but John Elway had a cannon for an arm, and you better be ready to catch that ball, because it's coming with some heat on it.
No, definitely. Mate, they're 2 great calls. I feel what probably goes against John Elway, I think people don't forget how great of a passer John Elway was. And you're probably seeing, I don't think it's actually a stretch of imagination, you're probably seeing Patrick Mahomes being the closest to him in terms of the way he can throw the ball, like John Elway. You've talked about people talk about Andrew Luck, but I think for me, Patrick Mahomes, in terms of the way he throws the ball, like John Elway, is probably the closest I would put in that regards. But obviously, you've had such an illustrious career. You've won Super Bowls. You've been on winning teams, and then you've been on the Raiders as well. Not to slight the Raiders, just been on the Raiders at the time. What sort of advice would you give to sort of these players nowadays who are playing the game, in terms of, especially in COVID time as well, with it being such a difficult season? I guess what sort of advice would you give some of the young players playing in today's game right now?
Yeah, I think this. I loved playing the game for the love of the game. And, there's, to me, I worked out as hard as anybody on the planet, because I knew I only had one body. And the harder I worked, the better I did with my recovery. I had a team of people that were on my payroll, and their job was to take care of me, from nutritionists to chiropractors, massage therapists, Olympic track coaches. You know, these guys now are making so much money, and hats off to them. And I would just say, you know, that it is I would tell them it's a privilege to be able to put on that uniform, and you better take care of yourself, bust your ass, work as hard as you possibly can to be absolute best you can. And if you love the game and you take care of your body, you can play for a lot of years.
No, I definitely agree on that. Look, it's great advice, and I think, you know, they say, you know, you either love the game. People play football because they love the game, or they love what football can do for them. And I think you start to see that, in particular with sort of championship winning teams, particularly the Patriots, and how they've won. I think you've got the Tom Brady and Bill Belichick combination, and that sort of that will and that desire to win. I guess based on that, for you, from your time as a player, were there sort of any players that really stood out to you in terms of that desire to win, to put football on the line? Obviously, I know you sort of got Jerry Rice and the way he used to train, but were there any other players, maybe unsung heroes, that you saw in the locker room and really gave it their all day in, day out for the game?
I tell you what, you know, when I got to the Broncos, you know, I look at Terrell Davis and the way he used to work and take care of himself and how gifted he was. Rod Smith at receiver, he turned himself into a great player. Ed McCaffrey, and they did that with hard work. You know, I mean, there were so many great 49ers. You know, a guy that, you know, doesn't quite maybe get the accolades as a Joe Montana or a Jerry Rice, but was a Tom Rathman, who was such a tough, hard-nosed player, hard worker, that really, you know, made that offense, you know, run the way it ran because of the way he blocked, because of those tough runs, and he could catch the ball out of the backfield. You know, Roger Craig was another one. Very few people worked as hard as Roger Craig in the way he respected the game and the way he took care of his body. So I could go on and on. I was blessed to be around a lot of great players.
I'm gonna ask you about one particular matchup. I'm sure these matchups went on in practice, and obviously when you guys were playing with other teams. Shannon Sharpe, man, how Shannon, you being, I know how you were on the field. I don't know if you were that tenacious in the locker room, but how it is with these two personalities, man, these knocking heads in practice. I'm sure there's a Shannon Sharpe, Bill Romanowski story out there that.
There were plenty of them. You know, hey, I knew when Shannon was on the line of scrimmage, I had to be on my game, and I couldn't have a false step. I had to be right in his face, and I knew he couldn't block me, but I knew, you know, he could make me look bad as a receiver if I wasn't dialed in. And we did. We had a lot of good battles, and he caught a couple balls against me, not many, but he caught a couple. But for the most part, you know, between you and me, I used to kick his ass day in and day out. So,
you were with the Raiders. Yeah. I think for a first down, it was they didn't know if he caught it or not. You were defending them, and then the refs came out and said incomplete, and it seemed like you were very happy about that play. Like, you know, like, for sure.
Oh yeah. You know, there was plenty of that, but hey, I have the utmost respect for Shannon and his career. He's Hall of Famer, and he was a damn good football player.
He's definitely one of my favorites, man.
Bill, I'm going to ask you a tricky question, and obviously, look, it's hard. Obviously, as a player, you've got the pride. You played great. You on winning Super Bowl teams. You went Pro Bowls. Do you feel you should be a Hall of Famer?
Good question.
You know, I do, because I did something that very few people on the planet ever did. And I never missed a game.
Yeah.
In 16 years. And I went to Pro Bowls. And but hey, we'll see. I think, you know, maybe down the road my time will come and I'll sneak in. But if not, I'm not worried. You know, at the end of the day, people knew the player I was, and they knew I was one of the best. And I respected the game. I loved the game and wish I could still play.
Nah, 100, man. We had an incident back. I mean, you retired back. I'm a Dolphins fan, you know, down here in Miami. I listened to some of your interviews, and you say you're an amazing locker room guy, and a lot of your teammates loved you. But then some people might see you as a bully. We had a situation down here with Richie Incognito and Jonathan down here. Do you think that situation got out of hand in terms of how the Dolphins? Do you think that Richie was a dirty player, or you think that was just football and the kid just was probably a bit too soft down here? Situation.
Hey, probably a little bit of both at the end of the day. You know, Richie was definitely had a lot of ego, a little bit of a bully, but you know, he was a big, a little bit of an undersized guard, and you know, he had a chip on his shoulder, and he was going to go out there and, you know, kick ass day in and day out, no matter what. And so it, you know, like I said, I think it goes both ways.
The reason I asked, because when that was going on, some of the local media was bringing up your name. It seems like, you know, when it's controversy and drama, they just got to pull in your name. And I didn't think that was pretty fair, because I know you played that way for your teammates, not against your teammates. So I thought it was a tough.
Yeah, my teammates loved me and my opponents hated me.
So, Bill, in terms of, I guess, you know, you talked a little bit about your, you know, what got you into football. And I know that you loved the game, but was there any sort of extra motivational factor for you in playing the game? Whether that was sort of maybe, you know, because you played with a rage, you played with an aggression, which was great for the decade, for the era in which you played. But surely, you know, someone doesn't just go from 0 to 100 like that in a game and then, you know, be Mr. Nice Guy after the game. So was there anything that really like sort of pushed you or drove you to tackle as hard as you did, to play as hard as you did, to train as hard as you did, outside of just the love of the game?
Well, I think the meaner and nastier I got through the years, the louder the cheers were for me, the louder the boos in opposing stadiums, and the more I got paid, and the more recognition I got. So, I mean, football, the fans, it was a drug. It was an intense drug that I was addicted to, and I loved playing. I loved every aspect of the game. Didn't mind the injuries at all. You know, I knew how to take care of my body. I loved the challenge of year after year of getting stronger and faster. You know, just it was something I felt like I was born to do, and I was blessed to be able to do it.
Hey, man.
Oh, that's good.
Now you did it well, man. But in terms of that one, and obviously you played 16 amazing years and you didn't miss a game, but obviously towards the end, you wanted to play. Can you speak to how not wanting to leave the game and wanting to be on top can make you make some decisions, probably in terms of the medicines that you might take, or and possibly, you know, not wanting to leave the game or even come off that pedestal?
You know, for me, there is nothing I would not do to be able to help my body recover and play better. And as long as, hey, I had a Bible, and that Bible was the NFL drug testing list. And if it was on there, I wasn't going to touch it. I wasn't going to do it. And that's how I lived my life for 16 years in the NFL. So, but with that being said, did I push boundaries? Absolutely. You know, I took things that were not on the list that maybe should have been, or I took things and following year, they ended up on a list and I stopped taking them. So there was a lot of that because I was very advanced and I had a lot of really high-end scientists and doctors on my team. So, but hey, at the end of the day, when you don't miss a game in the NFL, anybody that played in the NFL realizes how hard that is. And it's one thing if it's 2 or 3 years, but for me, it was 16 years.
Yeah.
And it's just something that doesn't just accidentally happen. You can't just be a freak and it just happens. You have to take care of yourself. And that's what I did.
No, I completely agree in that because obviously, look, I think the average lifespan of an NFL player is 3 years, and you know, yeah, 3.5 years, I believe. So you know, you look at sort of your career, 16 years, you lived past the average lifespan. You like you said, you never missed a game. But I want to sort of go into something because you mentioned time before now in terms of the team addressing having people around you, nutritionists, scientists, people that can help you take care of your body. What got you into nutrition? And obviously, you sort of elaborate in terms of now, because obviously you got your nutrition 53. So sort of elaborate on that. What got you into that? What's now moved you into sort of creating that as a post career?
Well, I learned at a real early age that the better I took care of my body, the longer I could play, because I knew I only had one body, and that body is how I made a living. So the way I took care of it, the right nutrients at the right time, the right nutrients for recovery, the right nutrients, to keep me up and energized, the B vitamins and things like that. Everything having a strategy of when to take it throughout a day. You know, the way I would address my pregame meals, postgame meals, everything just had such an intense purpose behind it, and it was taking care of my body. So for that, I was just blessed to be around a lot of great people, a lot of great mentors that helped me. And there was probably at the time I was playing, very few books on nutrition, sports nutrition, that I didn't read. So it was a passion of mine.
Okay. You also, I was listening to other interviews and prepping for this interview that you realized that there was one time you were walking to your car and you didn't know how to get home due to the concussions that you were having.
Yeah, that was when I was at the Raiders.
Yeah, and that you were looking for help and people were like, pretty much gave you the emoji, and that's when you started figuring this stuff out for yourself.
Yeah. When it came to concussions, I didn't know how to heal my brain. Now I do, because after I left the game, I literally started a nutrition company around a product, Neuro One, which is a brain focused product that literally changed my life. And I also did a lot of bouts in a hyperbaric chamber. So that was another big thing that I did to really help myself. And so for doing that, I learned a lot from that. I feel like my brain is better than ever. And a lot of that has to do with hyperbaric oxygen, my Neuro One product, a lot of the nutrients that I take every day. So, hey, it was a really bad thing at the time, but there's a silver lining there. It helped me start my company, Nutrition 53.
Where can they find that?
Nutrition53.com. And it's Neuro Lean One. That's the brand name of it. And anybody that's had any kind of, brain issues, NeuroOne's one of the best products on the market today.
So on that note, actually, Bill, tell us a little bit more about Nutrition 53. How it, obviously we've understood a little bit of your love and passion for nutrition, but how did Nutrition 53 come to pass? And just tell us a little bit more about the company and the business.
Well, when I left the game, I asked myself a question: what's next? And I did some movies with Adam Sandler, had a blast doing that, enjoyed that. But, it was hard being away from my, 2 young children at the time. So that was not going to be something that I thought I could keep up. And then I love nutrition. So I was helping out a company, Muscle Milk, at the time. And what I did is I decided to branch out on my own with 3, main areas to address: brain focus, sleep, and staying lean. So I developed 3 products: my NeuroOne product, my Sleep One product, and Lean One. And that's what Nutrition 53 does.
Okay.
It helps people's brains to be more focused and energized. It helps people sleep better, and it helps people stay lean. And I think those are 3 really important things, that people have to take care of when they get older.
So after Nate Robinson took one to the face in that battle from Jake Paul, we should definitely take one of those pills. I mean,
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask you that because I thought that was pretty interesting, the whole Mike Tyson fight. Because you was such a rebel, you think you could get in there, probably rumble with Mike? And if not Mike, is there an old school player from the 90s you're like, hey man, we need to get in the ring and settle some scores, man?
Yeah. You know what? I think I'm good. That's something I don't want to get in any ring. Back in the day, yeah, but no, I'm good. There's no way I would do what Alzado did back in the 70s. Hell no.
So Bill, obviously, look, you've made that successful transaction to owning your own business now, Nutrition 53. A lot of players have struggled to really sort of make that transition outside of football. So first question on that would be, so it's a two-part. The first question would be, what would you tell a lot of these players now exiting the game in terms of sort of what to do next and how to plan for the sort of life after football?
I think number one is find something that you really love to do. And, you realize this when you start a company, it's all about the team you put in place. So you have to have a great team, no different than the NFL. You don't win unless you have great people on your team. Mm-hmm. You don't win unless you have a great quarterback. You don't win unless you have great receivers and running backs and defensive linemen that can sack the quarterback, cornerbacks that can cover receivers. No different in business. You have to have strong people that are really good at what they do. A strong CFO that maybe offsets, what you're really good at. I was the visionary here. I'm really good at formulating products and working with scientists, helping me do that. And so, for me, it was a big learning curve, but I put together a great team of people, and Nutrition 53 is thriving.
You got to give somebody from the team a shout out.
What's that?
You got to give somebody from the team a shout out. Give a couple people a shout out, man.
Oh, I can't give 1 or 2, so that's impossible. Because everybody here, I'm blessed. to be around all the people, and it would take a long time for me to recognize everybody.
I was just setting you up, man.
So Bill, one thing in terms of before going back into the football, lastly on sort of your post career, obviously you went into acting. I want to know what pushed you to go into acting, because you were in some decent movies with Adam Sandler. You were in some good movies. Obviously, you mentioned your kids, so you wanted to leave acting to look after them. But what got you into acting?
Well, I got a call from Adam Sandler.
Oh.
And before that, I literally put it to the universe. And that was something I was interested in. And I thought I could do it and do it well. And I put it to the universe, and the universe responded. And it wasn't long after that Adam called me and said, "Hey, Romo, you wanna be in a movie that I'm doing?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And he said, "I'm doing The Longest Yard. Why don't you come down to LA? Let's have you read and let's get you in it." And that was a blast.
I can imagine.
That was one of the most fun things I've ever done in my life.
Yeah, Burt Reynolds, Nelly,
Terry Crews.
Go on and on.
Amazing.
Yeah, there were a lot of Goldberg. You had wrestlers.
Steve Austin.
It was awesome. Steve Austin, great guy. Kevin Nash, great guy. Like I said, it was awesome.
Okay. So Bill, obviously we don't want to take too much of your time. We appreciate you coming on. So before you do leave us, two questions. Firstly, I think I'll ask one question. My co-host Chris will ask the other. Who do you have first of all, to be in the Super Bowl from the AFC and the NFC? And who's your sort of pick for Super Bowl MVP?
I think it's going to be hard to pick against the Chiefs. I think it'd be hard to not pick Mahomes as an MVP because he's so damn good. There's a part of me in the NFC, I'm thinking, if Drew Brees comes back, they need him back and healthy, feeling really good. I also like Seattle. I like what Russell Wilson can do, but you can't count out Green Bay either. Yeah. So, there's quite a few choices in the NFC. There's not that many in the AFC.
Hey, we down here just trying to get in the dance. We just trying to get in.
Hey, you're a couple of years away, but you'll be all right in a couple of years.
We'll be all right. And I have to say, obviously, he's a defensive guy. Who is your top defense? And is there a player today that resembles Bill Romanowski a little bit? Maybe or maybe. Who do you think? What do you think?
Who would I say? There's not many. Trevathan, maybe. I like him. I like the way he plays. There's not many with the mindset that I had, because like I said, I would have been kicked out of every game. But you know what who I really like to watch? And it's because I was able to play till I was 37.
Okay.
But I look at Tom Brady and I marvel at what he's been able to do. And I love watching him and I root for him and I want him to be able to win another Super Bowl just because I'm rooting for the old guy.
I thought Luke Kuechly was the closest player to probably play. I mean, obviously
he was a damn good football player. And the fact that he decided to leave early, it's something I wouldn't have done. They had to drag me off on a stretcher, literally.
That's due to the obviously awareness of what's going on now with the mental health and the concussion. Yeah. So these guys are making these decisions. But I thought he was the closest player to you in this newer or this more modern era of football.
See, I would have gone a bit different. I would have said, from the Steelers. I would have said in terms of his tenacity, his playmaking. I would have said that's, you know, a young version of Bill in
Hey,
what
who I
Wadley
do
could be.
like, yeah, there's a young safety for the Raiders, Jonathan Abrams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kid wants to hit everything that moves. You know, I love the way he plays the game and the way he feels. Because I tell you what, he's like a heat-seeking missile. You know, I love the way he plays the game.
Oh man, hey Bill, we want to say thank you so much for coming on here, coming on All Sports, speaking all the things about the health, your playing days, obviously who you're gonna feel, and obviously Shannon Sharpe in those battles, man. We want to say thank you so much, brother, for coming on to the show, taking the time, man. And for Dan, what you got to say, brother?
Mate, we appreciate it, Bill. Look, we love it.
You got
Guys,
it.
if you're watching this, remember to check out Nutrition 53. Make sure you look after your mental health, make sure you look after your well-being, particularly in COVID. You know, reach out to Bill. He'll probably give you great advice as well. So guys, definitely check out the website, check out the products. They're great. So that's what I can say. Bill, we love having you on. Hopefully we can get you on again sometime. So we appreciate it. Thanks very much, Bill.
Shout out to
You got it. Thanks, guys.
All right, Bill.
Take care.